What's up, my podcast listeners? This is your host for Matuszewski, and we are doing another compilation styled video because I am close to 500 episodes and certain topics have been repeated, and especially my little car mini podcast episodes that I've been doing are about 15 minutes each. And each topic that I bring up can be, expanded into so many different ways. So I wanted to start bringing episodes together that made the most sense. So in this special episode, we're going to go back into kind of the bigger picture stuff. And we're going to look at 4 topics. We're going to look at apathy, empathy, judgment, and perspective when it comes to success in fitness and health. These are the things that people don't usually talk about when it comes to weight loss, because everyone really just cares on kind of basically the 10%, which is how many grams of protein should I eat? What time of the day should I eat? Should I not eat carbs past 6 p.m.? Which, sure, they're important, but not as important as these 4 topics that I'm about to bring up, because at the end of the day, we are human beings. We are not programmed to follow strict guidelines nonstop, because at a certain time, if we are, pushed into a corner with minimal amounts of free will, then eventually our whole body and brain will go, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore, which is essentially every single diet that you've probably have tried in your life. This is why people need more balance, and I was just talking about this with a client the other day about how fitness and health is the only real thing in our lives where we try to be 100% perfect in. If we don't hit that 100% perfection rate, then we feel like we lost. We feel like we, didn't achieve anything, which is kind of insane, because anything else in life that we do, we don't aim for 100%. We aim for just good enough that we can progress and move on. Imagine you doing your driver's test for the first time and you pass, but you didn't get 100% on every single thing. You didn't get a perfect score on your parallel parking. And rather than being happy that you passed and you now have a driver's license, you go, fuck, this is the worst day ever. You know what? I'm never going to drive again. That's insane. That's stupid. That's not how we function as human beings, but for some reason, fitness and health, that's okay, right? It's so strange to me. So that's why I really focus on the 80%, and that's the kind of stuff that we're gonna get into today, which is apathy, empathy, judgment, and perspective. Now, all these episodes were recorded last year and the year before. So depending on what was happening will make more sense. So obviously we hit COVID, and that's why I brought up the whole topic of apathy. I share my struggle. I fought a huge bout of depression when COVID hit, and I speak about it. I've always spoke so openly about my mental health on my show, because it's one of those things where most people don't talk about, and when someone's dealing with mental health, they're embarrassed to even bring it up, right? So I want to normalize mental health as much as possible, as long as I'm living and breathing on this earth. So, which again, think about it. If your mental health isn't, I'm not going to say perfect, but enough to function on a daily basis, how is that going to give you enough drive and motivation to continue going to the gym, eating right, saying no to social outings or drinking too much, things like that. Like, this is like the biggest thing that I see that people always miss the mark on when it comes to, planning their success for weight loss and health, is they don't ever think about their mental health. So all these episodes touch on that, but the apathy one definitely hits home for me and probably a lot of people. So I'm going to stop blabbing about random shit. I'm going to get into the episodes. Just remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel because I've been posting a lot of videos, and keep your eye out on my book. Most likely it's going to come out in January. Perfect timing for you guys to get back on track with your fitness and health. So without further ado, here is the compilation episodes of Apathy, Empathy, Judgment, and Perspective. Here we go. The topic today that I want to cover is something, again, kind of bigger picture, but it's going to give you a lot of insight to those times where you feel kind of defeated, down, and especially for those people struggling with weight loss. So when I coach clients, especially with nutrition, it becomes a very emotional and sensitive kind of arena for these people to, one, open up to me, and two, for me to start asking the right questions to get the deeper meaning of what's attached to this weight loss. And I think this is all coming at the perfect time, because I find that a lot of times when I do these solo episodes, things happen to me at a certain time, at a certain place, and it's perfect for an episode because all the things that are happening in my life regarding others all end up benefiting with these episodes. So the idea behind this episode is to look at perspective, right? I think a lot of times when people feel defeated when they're trying to lose weight because, they've been doing it for so long, nothing seems to be working, they're putting in the effort, they're going to the gym, they're waking up early to get to the gym, and all this other shit, and they still have no, result to show for it. And most recently I posted a simple saying of, in 10 years, you won't give a fuck how much you weigh today. Like, you're not going to think back 10 years from now and be like, oh my God, I stepped on the scale and I was 202 pounds when I really want to be 160. Like, you're not going to remember that. But for some reason, in that time, in that moment, that little square box that somehow gives you validity to your life, it gives you some sort of value number. Like, it just doesn't make fucking sense to me. Like, no one and nothing in this world, I was going to say no thing, should, tell you how much you're worth, especially when it comes to your health. Anyway, you got to put things in perspective. Yes, you are struggling to lose weight, look better, feel better, and everything above. But take a second and start thinking about others, right? Anytime I, in my life, feel like I'm not progressing fast enough, especially when it comes to business, because I'm so passionate about helping others, and this is where like the business sense comes out, and I'm like, oh, if I can market it this way, if I can do it this way, I can reach more people, I can be more successful, I can win at business, whatever. When I start getting into that zone of like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough, I try so hard, I keep hitting walls, like, I go through like depressive spells when I put out a Facebook ad and it doesn't get enough traction like I hoped it did. Like, that's fucked up. Like, that's a really stupid problem to be worried about. And then I started thinking, I'm like, who in this world would look at that problem and be like, bruh, are you serious right now? So I start thinking like really, really negative thoughts, like worst case scenarios. Like, what if my wife died for some apparent reason, some random thing happened? What if I like lost my job? What if like I just get into like really, really dark and negative thoughts, and then I take myself out of it and go, holy fuck, I can't believe I was complaining because my Facebook ad wasn't working the way I wanted to. The $25 I spent didn't get enough traction. Right? Perspective. Like, we've already won. Like, if you live in North America, you fucking won the lottery. If you were born anywhere else in this world that's not North America, that might be dealing with famine, might be dealing with gang violence, might be dealing with corruption in the government. Your issue of not seeing weight loss coming down fast enough is going to sound idiotic. And I'm not saying like, because people, when you're talking to someone and you're complaining because you're just venting, and people are like, oh, kids in Africa are dying, or you're like, fuck you, dick, like, that doesn't help me right now. And I'm not trying to do that. What I'm trying to do is get you to think in a different perspective. There's some people in this world that are obese and have failed to see successful weight loss, and they're the happiest people on this earth. But for some reason, some people out there that just want to lose 10 pounds become so obsessive over it to the point where if they step on a scale every single day and not see the numbers go down, they get angry, they get pissed off, they get into a depressive spell, they get into a dark place, when other people in this world that are dealing with harsher things, and not so much in different countries, but just in life in general, somehow they can find happiness. Really put yourself in other people's shoes, because like the moment you do this, you start realizing how amazing your life is. You can't have every bit of your life so perfect. Like, it doesn't happen. Go chat with like people that are rich beyond your dreams and really have a deep conversation with them. Some of them, not all of them, are fucking depressed more than you can imagine, right? They probably went through some shit at some point of their life, and that stuck with them. And then there's other people in this world that have literally nothing, and they're doing amazing things. That's perspective. So the next time you want to hop on a scale or start thinking those negative thoughts that, hey, my weight loss is not going fast enough, start thinking about what other people have to deal with. Because I'm pretty sure if we audit your life, you probably have some pretty fucking awesome things going on. It could be like your work is super awesome. You have a dog that absolutely adores you, that every time you come home from work, it's so excited to see you and licks your face off. Or maybe you have a grandchild that you're super, super proud of, and you two are like best friends. Like, perspective, people. Like, do you really think that in 10 years, I'm going to go back to my original point, that you're going to really give a shit about your struggle and frustration that the scale's not moving down? Probably not. What you should care about are things that are going to get you to your goal, that's not going to devour your entire mental state. Because the ugly kind of part of this whole fitness and health thing is that people feel ashamed, people feel of no value if they're at a weight where they don't feel their best. Like it's some sort of like cardinal sin that if you don't look a certain way, that your value is less than the person that's actually, as fit as you. As fit as, someone beside you, sorry. Like, it makes no sense to me. You need to start worrying about bigger things in your life. If the number one issue in your head right now is that weight is not coming off as fast enough, like, you got to rethink your priorities. And, some people listening might be kind of pissed off, but, sometimes you need that tough love. Like, this is kind of like really soul-searching kind of work. When people feel frustrated with their weight and everything that revolves around that one thing, you got to start digging deeper within yourself to see if it actually really matters. Because the moment I can get a client to stop thinking about the number on the scale and change their perspective and have a different outlook on exercise and eating right, that shit just comes so easily. It's like the less you think about it, the more successful you'll be. Right? I think a lot of times people blow, things out of proportion, especially when it comes to their weight. But at the same time, it's like a lot of people don't want to change what they're doing currently that they think it's working to see the change they want to see. A lot of times when people think they're working hard enough, they're just not working as smart. They might be going to the gym multiple times in a day, 7 days a week, still not hitting that number they want to see. And in reality, their sleep is shit and their stress is through the roof. That's not going to help. Sometimes less is more. And these things where it comes to like the mental state of what's going on with you, those are the things that are going to change tenfold, and you're going to see huge strides in success. So I'm going to leave it at that. Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back to another episode of Cut the Shit, Get Fit. I am your host, Rafał Matuszewski, and I feel not myself lately. This whole COVID thing is definitely getting to me. I think I am not the only one that's feeling this way. Our entire world has been flipped upside down. You're either working somewhat online from home or not at all. The gym is probably not working out for you. You probably have some strong feelings about what the hell's going on this day and age. And, the last couple days have been really rough for me. Oh, and my whole phone setup just fell over. But anyway, so last couple days been really, really rough for me mentally. Probably somewhat depressed based on how I feel. It's just that feeling where you wake up and you're not really excited to kind of get things going. It's been really hard to wrap my brain around my passion for what I do. My drive and motivation are just not there right now. And something that has been kind of helping me, and I wanted to bring this up because a lot of you probably feel the same way. Like, even though maybe you're on EI, maybe your work has come up with something where you can still get paid somewhat, and all you have to do is work from home, and you have all this free time, but still it's just not the same, and maybe you're just not enjoying what you're doing anymore. So the one thing that I've been kind of practicing is something called apathy. So literally the opposite of empathy, right? Like as a coach, like really good coaches, they have a lot of empathy for others. They're constantly giving to others to help them, right? Like on a daily basis, I'm constantly giving. But for some reason at this point in time, with how my life has changed professionally and how I had to adjust to work, like I just don't feel like I have enough to give, like I'm depleted almost. And this concept of apathy comes into play, where just caring a little less is what's going to get you through. You know, like there's nothing wrong about being pissed off or angry or mad or upset or frustrated with how your life is right now, because it's changed for everyone, like literally everyone. And as a empathetic person, you tend to always look on the bright side. Like I'm such an optimistic person. I'm constantly looking at the positive. Like what situation, like every bad situation I go, I'm like, okay, there's a learning curve. There's something of value here. But doing that constantly sometimes takes a toll on you. And I think that's where I kind of hit myself too. Right? That's where I kind of hit a wall with it. I just can't give anymore. That's what I'm at. And this whole idea of apathy, where I just literally just don't give a fuck anymore, and allowing myself to be okay with that, to give a little less, is making me feel good enough to kind of keep going, right? Like I've had so many dark thoughts about just like, you know what, fuck this, I'm just gonna stop completely everything I'm doing and just like stay home and do nothing, right? But I know that I'm responsible for so many more people than just myself, and I can't be that selfish, right? Like there's always a bigger picture for me. Like this comes into like almost extreme ownership. Like if things don't work out for my clients, my patients, the gym, the employees that got laid off, then it's all my fault. That's how I look at it. Like, because I have the power right now, especially, to change things around. So I can't be that selfish where I'm like, fuck it, I'm out. So, just caring a little less is okay. Like, for everyone listening, that's what you kind of need to do at this point. Just care a little less. Like, it sounds counterproductive, but if you think about every emotion that we go through on a daily basis, it comes and goes, right? Like, you don't stay happy 365 days out of the year for 24 hours a day. Like, that would never happen. Happiness comes and goes in waves, right? And like some periods of the year, you're more happier than the other. So just like this phase of apathy where we just care a little bit less, or we show that we're upset and frustrated and things like that, that's okay in this instant. Like, be okay with the idea of showing your true emotion. So many of us always try to mask our emotions. So I think in these instances, you need to give the permission to yourself to feel what you feel, right? Like, explore that emotion, right? Many of you are trying to get your fitness and health back on track, but maybe for some of you, it almost seems like every time you go, all right, new day, I'm going to get my workout in. I'm going to like start eating better. But then halfway through the day, you're like, fuck, I'm baking banana bread and cookies and I fucking ate half of everything. Because you have the time to do stuff more at home, right? Like, people will say like, oh, now you have all this time and you can exercise. Like, you're still gonna get thrown curveballs, right? Like, be mad, be upset, be frustrated, be sad, whatever it is, and then explore that emotion. We're so taught in our society to, hide our emotions because it's not, accepted, I guess. Like, fuck, if you're gonna cry, like, explore those emotions, 100%. Like, I don't know why that, for some reason, it's not good to express how you feel, or, you can't express your feeling towards another person or a situation. You have to keep it quiet. Like, this is the time right now to do those things. And sometimes, like, if you just say, like, even to yourself, if you just start saying out loud why you're pissed off, why you're sad, you don't understand, and sometimes that is like therapeutic. Like, if you're really angry about what's going on in the world, like, start bitching and complaining to yourself compared to you going on Facebook and doing a rant on a post, and then other people start arguing with you and it doesn't go anywhere. At least with yourself, you can say all the stupid shit and not feel like you need to hold back. And then sometimes you'll catch yourself and you're like, what the fuck am I saying? So practice apathy, caring a little less, and start looking out for yourself, right? If you're an empathetic person by nature, an optimist, it's time to switch gears a little bit. I think that's what people need right now. And that could be that, tipping point where you finally become successful, right? Like, you'd be surprised how often doing the opposite thing sometimes will influence something else, right? Like, actually, a good example about this, one of the recent books I read that I thought was kind of interesting is, I think it's called Think Like a Freak, where they look at stats around the world to figure out, not the obvious answer to change or influence things economically around the world. So one of the examples in the book was in the early 2000s, the murder rate in America dropped significantly, like a lot. And if you looked at the murder rates in the US in the 90s, 80s, and 70s, it was ridiculous. It was way up there, right? And these guys who wrote Think Like a Freak, they're trying to figure out how that was. Like, there wasn't really any new gun regulations or law, or they didn't hire more police officers or anything like that. Nothing drastic stood out. But in the 2000s, the early 2000s, I believe majority of all the states legalized abortion. And so many women ended up taking that option. And that influenced how many people being born in lower income communities in poorer sections of cities that had high criminal activity. So with less population, that greatly influenced the rate of murders in America on a whole, right? So something completely not like related to that kind of criminal activity influenced it, right? So in this case, it's kind of similar. Like, caring less is going to make you end up caring more and reach you to your goals when it comes to fitness and health, or really anything in life, right? Sometimes giving too much when that's supposed to be like the answer, because we all know, like, being a good person means to care as much as possible for others. And sometimes you hit your limit of how much you can care. And especially during times like this where you have to give more, you're going to run out on empty really quickly. So really kind of think about this concept and you'd be surprised. Like sometimes you got to look out for yourself. And maybe just taking, a step back by 5% is all it takes for you to like wake up in the morning and be like, fuck yeah, I'm ready to take on the day. I'm going to get my workout in. I'm going to eat healthy. You know what? I don't need that 3 glasses of wine tonight like I've been doing the last 3 weeks during COVID. Like, imagine that, how much that would change for you. So I think I'm going to end it there because I went on a roll and I want you guys to just take this information, apply it, and start doing it. So let's get this show on the road. A topic I want to cover today is judgment. And it came to me the other day and I was just thinking about how important it is not to be judgmental to yourself when it comes to fitness and health, right? If you think about it on a daily basis, I think all of us are judgmental to our core. Like before this whole COVID thing, like imagine if you were at the mall and you see someone walking by, how quickly you judge that person based on what they're wearing, how their hair is, what kind of shoes they're wearing, how they walk, how they talk, and how they present themselves. Like it's pretty scary how that happens, right? I don't know if men or women do it more often or it just depends on the situation. Like for a woman, like you look at everything the woman is wearing, the size she is, how tall she is, like we judge like crazy. And I think for guys, when they're jealous or their ego kicks in, they start judging the crap out of other dudes, right? So most likely when we practice this dirty habit of judging others, it probably makes sense that we judge ourselves so quickly when it comes to anything. Like think about all these times where you don't believe in yourself because you're already judging that, I'm probably going to fail, I'm probably not going to do well, I'm probably going to do X, Y, and Z. So when it comes to fitness and health, you're already like 2 points at you're losing already, knowing that you're going to judge yourself poorly on your efforts, right? The moment you start training and start following a healthier routine, you're going to start looking at yourself in the mirror, and what are you going to do? You're going to judge every single inch of your body. You're going to judge how terrible it is, how it's not this, it's not that, it's X, Y, and Z. Like, really think about it. Every time you have to measure up on your health, you're going to judge the shit out of yourself to the point where everything you're doing comes into question. So if you self-assess yourself in this situation, maybe you'll have the self-awareness to be like, holy shit, every time I wake up and look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, oh my God, like my neck is too fat, my waist is too big, my thighs are way too big, my ankles are too fat. Which, by the way, side note, I had a client who was prepping for a figure show and she complained that her ankles were too fat. I'm like, everyone's ankles, unless you're like 300 pounds, are really freaking lean. Like if you go grab your ankle skin and not even fat around your ankle joint, like the malleolus, like it's skin and bone. There's nothing there. So for me to hear a woman that was like probably 12 or 11 body fat percentage at the time to say that her ankles were fat, I was like, what? Right? So that's an extreme example where the sport of figure and bodybuilding is based on, how you look and people judge you on that, right? So, yeah. we need to give ourselves a little bit of breathing room on this kind of stuff. If we're hardwired to judge ourselves, like, there's no hope. No hope. You take a person that used to be overweight, that had lost like 80, 100 pounds, and you tell them that, oh my God, like, you look amazing, you did this and that, they will most likely, probably 99% of the time, be like, yeah, but like this doesn't, is not lean enough, or like I wish I lost, like I need to lose another 10 pounds. Like, it's never good enough. Like, when is it good enough? Right? Like, when is it? And I think a lot of people end up thinking that in order to be successful at this whole weight loss thing, you need to look a certain way. And we always end up thinking that it has to be that six-pack shredded person on a magazine cover in order to be successful. But if you think about it this way, that those people are like the 1% of the population that train. And remember, you got to think about it this way, that they get paid to look like that. That's their livelihood. So hell yeah, they're going to want to look like that a lot, right? It's equivalent to like, hey, I like to play basketball in my free time. I'm okay at it, but I don't kill myself that I am not as good as a professional basketball player. That is exactly the same thing. And when I put it into that perspective, people are like, oh, shit. So now their mind set changes a little bit to a different version of what success actually looks like, right? So if everyone was hard-pressed that they're not as good as a professional basketball player when they play, and they practice, they don't get any better, but their skills improve a little bit, they're better than most of the people they play with, like, and they still are not happy, and they're like, fuck it, I'm gonna stop playing basketball, I'm never gonna do this again. Like, it seems ridiculous, right? But those are the expectations when it comes to fitness and health. Like, if we don't look a certain way, and most people who are thinking successful, aesthetically pleasing and looks are what a magazine cover looks like, or how, Chris Evans looked as a Captain America, or any of those actors and actresses, then it's like, you need to come down to earth and be realistic with yourself. Like, your version of success has to be a little bit different. If you're judging yourself constantly that you don't look like Scarlett Johansson in the Avengers, then you need to kind of rethink your life, right? Like, no one has beat themselves up because they don't play basketball as well as LeBron James. Unless you were like literally trying to make the NBA draft. But most people don't go down that length. But people getting into fitness and health, they automatically assume that if they don't look like Scarlett Johansson, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, or any of those guys, then they're failures at life, which makes no sense, Like, really think about that. So, to kind of wrap this up, to keep it nice and short, is that we are so hardwired to judge ourselves. And most importantly, it all started with us judging others. So a lot of times when it comes to success in life, in any aspect, is to figure out our inner workings, like what's going on the inside, and that affects so many other facets in our life. So who would have thought that you figuring out why you're being such a judgmental person towards others is going to affect your success at fitness and health, right? Like, it's usually two things that don't match up that have huge effects on it. So if you take the time to work on yourself in here, it's most likely going to affect other aspects of your life. So really, really think about that going into this week, next week, and maybe that's one of the challenges you're going to focus on during this COVID time, where you have time to reflect. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys for listening. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for the support. I don't know how this is going to fit into the whole health and fitness thing, but this is definitely going to fit into that personal development, becoming a better human being category. So with recent events happening in the States right now, with the death of George Floyd, there's been a huge movement in the Black Lives Matter movement. And there's been a lot of shit on the internet about this. And what's interesting to me is how long social media has been putting out things in, the internet world that relate to Black Lives Matter. I remember when Trayvon Martin got murdered, it was almost like maybe at most 36 hours on the internet, and then it kind of just died down. This, on the other hand, is taking a lot longer to disappear, which is a good thing because it starts the conversation and builds a lot of awareness. Now, I am never going to be in a position where I will fully understand what Black people have gone through since the day of slavery, but I am willing to take the time to understand their struggle, to stand up when they need help, and to be there for my friends of color during this time. Yesterday was a peaceful protest here in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I had to go. And the reason why is a very close friend of mine, and I posted a little bit of this story this morning, who I met back early in high school, and he was kind of like the new kid on the block, and I remember seeing him for the first time, and no one really wanted to talk to him, so I was the first one to go up to him and say, like, hey man, what's going on? My name's Raph, blah, blah, blah. And from there, we became really good friends, and interesting enough, I learned a lot about his struggle growing up in a school where he was the only Black kid, and he was made fun of, got picked at, and things like that. So I made sure that none of that shit would happen to him in high school. Sadly, he committed suicide about, I think it's 9 years ago now. And when these things happen in our world, I feel that I need to show up and voice the importance of this, because I think back to my friend that's gone now, that he would be really disappointed in me if I didn't stand up for him. And what hurts me inside is a lot of times people of privilege don't really get what this whole movement's about. And I was trying to explain this to a friend of mine who wants to help out but doesn't really understand how to. And I was like, really think about, like, if you were walking down the street and you saw your friend being beat up by somebody, without hesitation, you would jump in and make sure your friend wasn't being hurt. When something like this happens and your friends of color are affected by it, they expect their friends to stand up for them as well. And when you stay silent, it makes them feel that you're not really there for them. You know? I am a firm believer that every single life is precious, and when I see this kind of evil come into the world where they treat others lower than themselves, just does not sit right with me, and I'm like, fuck that shit. You know, I came to Canada as an immigrant, and I remember it was really tough for me to adjust to this culture. Like, I felt like the odd one out, right? And that's just a little thing that anyone can overcome. But someone of color who has to deal with that all the fucking time is a whole nother story, right? And my challenge to everyone listening is to be more empathetic. You know, I've brought up the whole topic of empathy in my show so many times, and it's so important because, like, yeah, empathy is super important for yourself, because a lot of us who struggle with fitness and health can't, you know, take the pressure off ourselves, that we can't, you know, give ourselves a break. We can't, you know, empathize within ourselves. And no wonder it's so hard for other people to really understand the issue here. You know, like, there's always those sayings, like, think about the person that's suffering in front of you. Put yourself in their shoes. Put yourself in their shoes is a saying that everyone says, but I don't think anyone actually practices it. And that's what we need in this world. But be more empathetic for those who are suffering. You know, I'm a type of person where when I'm with a client or with a patient and they're telling me their most vulnerable feelings and emotions, I take on so much of that feeling from them to the point where I'll start tearing up. And I've always had that ability to connect with people in pain on such a high level, to a point where, like, I hold myself back. I don't know why I do. I need to get over that. But when I get home and I start reflecting on what's going on with other people's lives, I'll start crying because of their pain. So when shit like this happens and I know it affects people that are close to my heart, it kills me inside. And if there's one thing that any of us can do, is just be more empathetic to one another, to really understand each other's pain. And when we get to that point, you'd be surprised how fulfilling life can be when you can understand someone else's pain and then use that to help change. I don't think racism is going to be gone in our world anytime soon, but the fact that this movement has been on social media blasting everywhere for more than 36 hours, like I mentioned earlier, is a really good thing. And I don't know if you guys have seen, you probably haven't seen, since, you know, Tuesday this past week, I haven't posted anything fitness related at all, to give way for the freaking Facebook and Instagram algorithm to show more of the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, I have a platform, you know, available to me via my podcasts, my social media, and I have, you know, an audience, and it would be ignorant of me not to bring this up. It would be ignorant of me not to say something so I can, like, influence one person, you know, to stand up for your friend or friends of color. You know, it's small things that get slipped by, and you need to be the person to say, like, hey, that's not cool, that's not okay. You know, like, even if someone was trying to joke about something small, that's not okay. You know, this comes down to just living as equals, like having the dignity to stand up for what's wrong. You know, I fucking hate bullies because I was bullied as a young child. I remember the day where I had enough about being made fun of, getting beat up, and I was like, fuck, when I get into a position where I'm strong enough in here that I will stand, like, that I can, like, stand on my own 2 feet and say no to a bully and say no to bullshit, I'm going to take that power that I built within myself to help others who are being pushed down. Like, I fucking hate seeing people tearing down other people. It is the worst thing that we can do. Like, as human beings, we have the power to do amazing things in this world. We can create beautiful things in this world. But for some reason, there's some people out there that decide to use those talents for some destructive, disgusting things. And for us who want to help, the first thing is having a conversation within yourself to see if you really, truly believe that you can help out. You know, think deep within yourself. If you believe that everyone should have equal rights and equality, you know, there's crazy shit happening in the States right now. And showing up for your friends of color is the first thing you can do. Ask, like, educate yourself. And then have empathy for all the people suffering out there, and you're going to do a lot of good that's going to start moving things in the right direction. Now, I know this was not a fitness and health podcast episode, but this shit matters, and this shit needs to be addressed. This shit needs to be taken care of, you know? But all of this comes in full circle. You know, when we start thinking bigger picture, things in our life start becoming complete. So I challenge all of you to have that tough conversation with yourself to see if you're actually doing enough. And there's so many ways to support this movement. There's so many ways that don't cost money, that take seconds to do. So I really hope that this episode and this video eventually, when I post it, will inspire people to become more empathetic towards the people that are being brought down and have been suffering for a long time. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you guys for supporting me. Thank you for listening to me ramble on. Like and share this podcast. Give me a 5-star review. Share. Thank you so much, you guys.